And so I don't want you to follow me and listen to me and just, oh, John knows it. No, this is not what I want. I want you to inquire about what I've said and look at it yourself. Don't just agree with me and don't just disagree with me. Look at it. Take a look yourself and explore it. And in my experience, this had to happen. I did not have the vitality. I did not have it. I never had the vitality to unplug from the matrix and stay unplugged and understand the rest of the process. But by going through the cleanse of the phase 1, I found it.
I'll get out. I get out of all your boxes. I'll get out. You can't hold me in these chains. I'll get out.
Hey, beautiful family. Before I start, let me send an abundance of love from myself to whoever you are, whoever you're watching from. Earlier today in meditation, I had a pull to speak about unplugging from the matrix. And so here I am. And of course, unplugging from the matrix is kind of the spiritual awakening process at the same time. But I like to use this analogy of the matrix because I feel that many people have seen it. And because of that, the symbology is very relatable. And some of the older languages of old that have been used to describe this process are a bit lost on our modern day society. So I'm going to do one on unplugging from the matrix. And I'm going to go over my journey and what I've witnessed in doing this and the pitfalls that I see. And so I think I'll do a phase 1 with this video, and then I'll do more videos about this, phase 2, 3, 4, etc. So first of all, I think I should define what is a matrix. The matrix is anything physical, spiritual, mental, that is restricting you into a program which is lesser than the awakened state of consciousness that a human can have. This is a matrix. It can be a chain in the physical world, it can be a chain in the extra-dimensional element, a chain internally inside of your mind, it can be a spiritual chain. It's a restricted version of who you are, and the whatever is restricting you is collectively that matrix. Now, I'm not going to get into in this video what is the source of the matrix. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because it's kind of like it's like someone cuts off your water supply. And because they cut off your water supply, you are dehydrated. And the journey to go and restore your water supply at the source is a big journey. But you're dehydrated and you've lost vitality. So what you need really is you need some water, and you need it pretty quickly, so as you can restore your vitality, and then you can go and deal with the source that has cut that off. This is like understanding spiritual awakening. It's like understanding unplugging from the matrix, because at the very early stages for myself, what I witnessed was, because of the dawn of internet, the later parts of the journey, I would intellectually agree to them. The later parts of the journey seemed more alluring and exciting to my intelligence as well. And so this idea of spiritual gifts and the interdimensional aspects and all of these things that are part of this process, I would jump to them with my mind on internet research because they were just more stimulating. And because I was doing that, I didn't have the vitality to be able to go through the process, to understand it. And the vitality was missing because I didn't do the work in the early stages. Flock of migrating geese passing. And the work of the early stages is like getting that drink of water so you're not dehydrated and now you can go and deal with who cut your water off. You can't understand the source of the matrix if you haven't dealt with the first phase and dealing with your vitality. And you'll see this in people, because what they'll do is they'll blame the problems of the world on the notion of separation which comes from not having that vitality. They'll blame it on individuals. It's the government, it's that president's fault, da 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 da. And this happens when you are going through this process of unplugging and you haven't done the early stages to restore your vitality. And so you've hopped to the other stages to try and deal with it there, and you don't have the vitality required to understand the situation in front of you. And this is my experience I'm speaking of, and I know that humans psychologically and spiritually are all ultimately the same, despite the different stories that we pass through. And so this is why I won't get into that, because phase one, I feel I want to try and create some sort of organization in amongst this confusing journey of awakening and unplugging. And that's why I won't get into that in this video, but I will in a later one. So that said, let us look at ourselves and this matrix. So the first thing we have to witness about ourselves is that the body and the mind is programmable. Your body and your mind can be programmed, and it's been programmed most of your life, and it's probably been programmed in some way today as well. And the programs that are going in are often not that healthy. And sometimes healthy programs go in. So this is not a curse, it can be a blessing as well. But it's important to see that. And it's also important with inside understanding that your body and mind can be programmed. Look at your worldview. If you're watching certain mainstream media, if you're following certain educational paths, you are being programmed. If you are addicted to pornography or television, you have been programmed into that. Your body has been programmed by the habitual repetition of doing the action into coming to this for some sort of stimulus. And so it's also important that we understand that we have a vibrational element to ourselves. We are all living in vibration on the level of quantum atoms. You're made up of atoms that are vibrating in a different way, and they create the different frequency, creates the form you see around you ultimately at a very deep level to the best of our intellectual understanding. But you feel it, the vibration from love to fear. We know some are much more favourable, higher vibrations feel good, and the others don't. When you get stuck in certain programs, you elevate or lower your vibration. If someone has gotten into the program and they've programmed their body to exercise and to eat well, they'll vibrate in a much better way. If someone has programmed themselves to be addicted to pornography all day long and eat lots of junk food, they'll resonate at a much lower frequency. People who are watching scary movies will often resonate in the state of fear and separation because they're playing out this smaller separate identity. People who are sitting in meditation and understanding the oneness of things will elevate and stand in love. And so it's very important to have that view, an understanding of yourself beyond the body that you see, that there's something deeper and more beautiful about us. We are light beings who forgot who we are ultimately. But I'll get into that also in a later video. But for now, I felt it's important to see that we are programmable in mind and body, and we are also vibrational in the outcome of what those programs do. If you're wondering how the body is programmable, just look at your phone addiction. Your hormonal system is giving you dopamine, and so the mind and the body is becoming programmed. When you eat junk food, the mind and the body is becoming programmed to eat that junk food, not for health, but to get some sort of stimulus. This is the programming that I'm speaking about. So the negative programs in our life tend to come when we don't have peace of mind. A human who doesn't have peace or a peaceful state is very vulnerable. And they are vulnerable because they will seek externally to find that peace. But there are humans among us who have tasted another way of life, and they find that peace from within. They are very content despite not having what the consumerist world is trying to sell us as the pursuit of happiness with all of the material gain. And so when you look at what's disturbing peace of mind, it's normally survival or external pursuit of peace from the world around you, be that in people, in sexuality, in consumerism, in entertainment, whatever. You're basically taking a vessel which is not peaceful to start with, and you're trying to find peace, and you're basically finding a temporary mask for it. And this creates a cycle of needing to keep looking, because you're never dealing with the internal peace. And this is key to the matrix. To unplug from the matrix, this is absolutely key. This is why phase 1 is important, that I'm going to speak about now. When you are in survival, for example, survival existed in nature, and survival exists today. The environment has changed. We now have central banks and so on and so forth. Again, understanding central banks, you require the vitality. So this is like phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is get your vitality back. So our environment's changed. We now have the economy. Some people in there are in survival mode. Now, if you're in a job that you don't like, you've got 4 options. You keep doing it and you feel bad about it, and you don't try to inner engineer yourself to find some peace with it. You leave for another job in the hope that it will bring you the peace that you are not finding in this one. Or you start engineering your inner peace and you find inner peace with your situation, or you start engineering your inner peace and you look for work elsewhere in a different scenario. And of course, the first 2 are a very dangerous game to play. Number 1 is going to leave you miserable. Number 2, hoping that another job is going to be making you feel better, might to some degree, but you still need to start doing some inner engineering, because eventually problems will come up there as well. So survival has always been a problem for humanity, always, in nature and in society. And so the source of that suffering is coming off the mind's reaction to its living circumstance. It's wanting something better. And the thing is, you can't build something better for yourself unless you have peace of mind. If you are just constantly in the tension of not enjoying your life, then what we do is we get in the cycle of working the job we don't want to do, getting the resources and using the resources to buy things to try and satiate the lack of peace we have with our life, alcohol, parties, entertainment, etc. And you get stuck in the matrix in that way. That's one way to get stuck in the matrix. The other side of it is that people make enough money now that they have excess, and they start using that money to buy things, experiences, etc., external things in the world, and they think that's going to give them some peace. And what they do is they overstimulate their mind with pleasure, because pleasure is not peace. Pleasure is not peace of mind. And the pleasure actually creates the lack of peace of mind in a worse way. And so, if you have excess in the economy and you're buying things to make yourself feel better, you are still in the same problem as the person in survival who's not happy either. You're looking for peace of mind and you're looking for it in the wrong places. Now, yes, there is a certain ease to having more income, etc., but you will only get to that point if you find some more peace within yourself anyway. So you can see the root problem is the mind in both instances. Finding peace of mind can't come from staying inside the mind. At some point you have to become the source of the mind, and this is important for all of us, and I'll get onto this now, but the mind is not who you are. You have to acknowledge that there is a source to your mind, and that source is where you should be coming from. Otherwise you'll keep reacting and responding to this chatter that you've got going on, and you won't get out of your circumstance. Now, one of the ironic things of this as well, if you look at the way the matrix works, is that some people are, those of us in survival, are those of us who are having excess but are still not happy and are looking for it inside buying things, inside the world of economy. People will come along and manipulate that. They take advantage of it to get resources off them. They take your time, they take your happiness, the time you've spent doing something you don't want to do, so that you buy their alcohol, as an example. Now the owner of the alcohol company who has sold you this, things in moderation, I'm not putting you down if you drink alcohol, but it's an example. or mindless entertainment, pornography, whatever it's going to be, the person in charge of that company is using up your time, your happiness to gain profit, so as they can go and buy things and find their peace as well. And so it's this awful cycle, and it's just ripping, and it's an inward vortex sucking the life out of one another into the world. Instead of finding inner peace and bringing the peace into the world, we're looking for the peace from within the world. And it's a totally different... finding peace in the world is a contracted state. Bringing peace into the world from within is an expansive state. And this is what we see within the matrix. We are mostly contracted as a collective. We are not in the expansive expression of love and joy, unfortunately. And so the suffering continues, and the situation we are in continues to grow in its problems, because we are not getting to the point where we say, okay, let's try and find peace inside. Let's not try to look for it inside the world of the matrix. The body that is not having inner peace in and of itself, not in the Tao, as you would say, as a Taoist, is seeking pleasure outside of itself, and it's a poor substitute. It doesn't help. So you're always going to keep feeding into the matrix so long as you're doing that. It's a key. It's the key plug to get you into the matrix, is getting you to seek pleasure in the world, getting you to seek the peace that you want from pleasure of the world or from things outside of yourself. And so when you finally witness that, we have to start looking at, how do we get out of that? Well, the first thing we have to do is detoxify the body and the mind. You can enter the state of pure attention and have an awakening in an instant. It can happen. But what I've noticed is that the detoxification is necessary, because the body will pull you back into your habits. You will awaken and go, oh, there I am. Freedom, at last. State of pure attention, no inner character to grab at the world. Just here, just at peace. And then all of a sudden, the addictive hormones will rise up and say, but don't you want to come and, whatever it is, come and take your drugs? Don't you want to come and put your pornography on? Don't you want to come and do this? And your inner peace will be disrupted by the pull of your body and the habits of your mind. And your mind might say, oh, there's inner peace, but I have this habitual pattern that I watch TV every day. So never mind that inner peace, come and watch TV. And so we have to detoxify, and junk food, etc. included. So fasting's a great way, of course, to detoxify. It eliminates, it resets the body. And what you'll find is, as you pull away all of these impulses, you're going to be uncomfortable for a while, it's unavoidable. But as you pull away these impulses to go and grab the junk food, etc., health begins to rise, the desire for health, because now you're unplugging from the matrix, which is making you do these things that are not healthful for your body, and you start to sense that your body is now saying, I know the highest route to vitality. Now that the mind is going to be our friend, now we're subduing it, the highest way to find peace is to find our inner health. And likewise, not only with the junk food, etc., and resetting in that way, finding a healthful, balanced, natural diet's important. It's not overly stimulating, not food for survival, not for pleasure, because it's not that you don't enjoy things anymore, it's that the joy of the experience of being unplugged is far more valuable. Now, if you get into that unplugged state and you eat the junk food, you feel worse. And so it's not that you are losing out on some sort of joy in life, you're gaining the true joy. And these things now become a pollutant to that joy, a depressant of it. And so the mind is the same. You have dopamine addiction. You might be sitting there and you're starting to feel in peace and you want to let your creativity out. You know, creativity that comes out of a human being can elevate the vibration so much. You start painting and drawing or writing or whatever it might be, your vibration goes up and it's beautiful. However, the young man or young woman who then opens the laptop and puts the pornography on, the vibration goes down because they're spending that creativity. So there has to come a period of a a detox of the mind. A dopamine detox is a good thing, where you give up on the phone, you give up on the laptop, and you spend your time doing other things. And when the pull comes, it's not that you sit there, you're going to be uncomfortable. You've spent a lifetime teaching your body inside the matrix to look outside of itself and plug itself into the matrix persistently. You're going to be uncomfortable for a little while, but when your body says, oh, I'll just pick up my phone, I'll just put Netflix on, I'll just watch a movie, I'll just put some pornography on, I'll just go and get drunk, I'll just, whatever it might be, try and put a different program in. Love yourself, do some yoga, go for a walk, sing a song, write some poetry, paint a picture if you can, go for a run, climb a tree, whatever you're going to do, do something outside of the box that is still going to fill your time, still going to fill your still going to distract you from, in that period, from the struggle of the fact that you don't have your distractions, but make it something positive, build a positive habit inside you. And so you have to go through this process. You have to stabilize the chaos of your body chemistry and the dopamine requirement and hormone requirements of the addiction to the screens, to the junk food. And you also have to calm your mind. Calm your mind so as you can reach into that space of finding peace. Because addiction, corruption, lies, they all exist inside the beta frequency of the human mind. You need to start finding a way to get above there. Now, some people use a halo. You can go into this forest and find psilocybin mushroom, take that, you'll have a transcendental experience and come back and be like, wow, okay, something needs to be done here. That said, the discipline won't be there, so the other patterns are often still sometimes present. Not always. Some alcoholics recover from one dose, but many people don't have it in one go. And so meditation allows you to go up into the higher. You've got beta, alpha, theta, delta. If you sit in theta and delta long enough, it comes down and alters the patterns inside beta. So when you return to beta, which you must, you find that there's less problems. It's not any longer pulling you. Go here, do this, do these things you shouldn't, spend your vital energy in bad ways, corrode yourself, be addicted to this, etc. Look for peace outside of yourself. You found the peace inside yourself now. So when you come back down, it doesn't have many arguments, shall we say. And these habituations that you've programmed in, they become quite quiet. But only when you elevate up in a practice. And so this is why I say meditation is of vast importance. You can't unplug from the matrix if you don't detoxify the mind and body, and if you don't get into a practice of stillness of some sort. You can't do it. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. Now, you might, with a psychedelic, have an awakening. It might happen. But the reality for me is that even though an awakening can come in an instant, that I still, in my experience, the detoxification, I should say it's not, I'm not saying it's not possible. In my experience, it wasn't possible. The detoxification had to happen because my body just kept pulling me back into my old habits. And only after I fasted and detoxified was that gone. Because those vibrational attachments that I had energetically that were whispering, do this, I eradicated them by stabilizing my body and elevating my vibration and coming into a state of control where I was the source of my mind. I was no longer my mind and its chaotic reactant state that I once was. Likewise with my body, I was the source of my mind, and thus I had control of the body and the things that it wanted to do as well. My memory card filled up probably tells me I've spoke long enough. And so I'll wrap up. This is phase 1. You can't, as I said at the beginning, you don't have the vitality available to understand the whole thing if you don't do phase 1, if you don't make some progress and effort to have that experience. But the beautiful thing about this is that it should provide hope for everybody, because you are the one of your own matrix. And that means that all of the corruption and the lies and the control and the power, all of the things that make up the matrix that we're tired of, when you start to see this, when you find the vitality by going through this phase 1, you'll start to see how integral your role is in keeping that propped up or not. You'll start to understand how integral your vibration is to keep that propped up or not. And if you don't go through the first few phases, and you don't restore that vitality and that love to yourself, that natural state that you need to go back to, you will come at it with an intellectual knowledge, but you will come at it with all the wrong energy, and you will feed back into the matrix, and you will plug people in around you and plug yourself back in. But there's hope, because this means that you're the one. You are the one of your own matrix, just as Neo was. You are the one. And when you realize that you are the one, and you do unplug, I remember meeting people who were unplugged while I was plugged in. And when you unplug, you'll start to emit such a light that it plants a seed. I met people who were unplugged, and they planted a seed inside me. And that seed made me ask questions. Why? Why are they happier than me? Why are they emitting so much more love and light than me? Why? And the questions were asked, and they started my journey. Now, if you can shine a bright enough light that it catches other people's eyes, they will start to ask the same question. But if you don't unplug, if you don't find your vitality, and you try to go after the person who's cut off the source of your water while you're dehydrated, nobody will see your light, and you won't awaken anybody. All you will do is come into it with anger and separation, and you will feed the amnesic state of the matrix further. And so I don't want you to follow me and listen to me and just, oh, John knows that. No, this is not what I want. I want you to inquire about what I've said and look at it yourself. Don't just agree with me, and don't just disagree with me. Look at it. Take a look yourself and explore it. And in my experience, this had to happen. I did not have the vitality. I did not have it. I never had the vitality to unplug from the matrix and stay unplugged and understand the rest of the process. But by going through the cleanse of the phase 1, I found it. And so inquire, look at it, ask yourself, am I getting results? Am I changing the world? Am I really unplugging? Have I skipped this crucial phase? Have I cleaned myself up? Am I still looking for peace outside of myself? Because if that's the big giveaway, if you still need something, if you still need the phone to find peace, or the entertainment to find peace, or whatever it might be, if you have not yet seen the vibrance and the importance that this moment that I am living in here and blessed to be in will never exist again, and I don't want to take myself away from this moment, I want to be here with it. If you don't understand that vitality, that state of pure attention, then you're not unplugged, you're intellectually agreeing that you're unplugged. And the first thing you need to do is to clean your house. It's to detoxify your mind and your body and get used to finding peace from within and that expansiveness that it brings, instead of trying to find peace from the outside and the contracted state of being that it brings. Because until we are all sharing the expansive love from within ourselves, we will always keep grabbing and selfishly corrupting and power hungry and hurting one another and reinforcing the very matrix that we are within. Now I'll get on to the layers of the matrix in the next video, the mind, spirit, dimensional, so on and so forth. But for now, I wanted to try and make this series somehow digestible in some ordered fashion. I love you all. God bless, guys.